Hear ye, hear ye. I'm gonna do a reading that's not for children now because I'm at the library. Their Wi-Fi is a lot better than stupid McDonald's parking lot. And today, hey, check out my shirt first. It's all backwards though. So today I'm gonna read part 1 of Tobacco Road. Yeah, maybe you can read it easier when it's upside down. I love this book. Today I found at a thrifty kind of store. I found a biography of this guy, not an autobiography, but a biography. So maybe some chat people will come in here and we'll talk, and I can take breaks and stuff. I'm not going to take breaks from this book, so I'm going to get through that. So this is Tobacco Road by Erskine Caldwell, 1932. I don't know if I'm saying that right. 1932. This is the first printing of copyright. Roll it by Roy Bearden White. Looks like just some dude wanted to see this published. Oh, Laughing Dogs Press, Levelland, Texas, 79336. So I'm going to go ahead and start reading. I hope I'm not being too loud. I reserved one of the study rooms in the library, and I was just like, hey, you know what book would be fun to read? Tobacco Road. It's a favorite, and I haven't read it for decades. It's crazy to believe that I'm that old. So yeah, Caldwell, Caldwell, Erskine. Maybe someone can pronounce that in the chat. We got 2 people here. All right, chapter 1. Love Bensey trudged homeward through the deep white sand of the gully-washed Tobacco Road with a sack of winter turnips on his back. He had put himself to a lot of trouble to get the turnips. It was long and tiresome. Can you guys hear me? I hope so. The speakers, the microphone's kind of underneath the phone and it's standing up. Anyone, just let me know if you can hear me, because this is a waste of time if you can't. Where was I? He had put himself to a lot of trouble to get the turnips. It was a long and tiresome walk all the way to Fuller and back again. The day before, Love had heard that a man over there was selling winter turnips for 50 cents a bushel, so he had started out with $50 early that morning to buy some. He had already walked 7.5 miles, and it was 1.5 miles yet back to his house at the coal chute. 4 or 5 of the Lesters were standing in the yard looking at Love when he put his sack down and stopped in front of the house. They had been watching Love ever since he was first seen an hour before on the sandhill nearly 2 miles away, and now that he was actually within reach, they were prepared to stop him from carrying the turnips any farther. Love had his wife to feed and provide for, in addition to himself, and he was careful not to allow any of the Lesters to come too close to the sack of turnips. Usually when he came by the Lester place with turnips or sweet potatoes, or for that matter, with any kind of food, he left the road 1/2 mile from the house and made a wide circle through the fields, returning to the road a safe distance beyond. Today, though, he had to speak to Jeter about something of great importance, and he had ventured closer to the house than he had ever done before when carrying home turnips or sweet potatoes. Love's wife was Jeter Lester's youngest daughter, Pearl. She was only 12 years old the summer before when he had married her. The Lesters watched Love closely while he stood in the middle of the road. He had dropped the sack from his shoulder, but he held the neck of it in the rigid grasp with both hands. No one in the yard had changed his position during the past 10 minutes. The next move was left entirely up to Love. When Love came to the house and stopped, he had a good reason for doing so. Otherwise, he would never have come within hailing distance. He wanted to speak to Jeter about Pearl. Pearl would not talk. She would not say a word, no matter how persuasive Love tried to be, nor how angry he was. She even hid from Love when he came home from the coal chute. And when he found her, she slipped away from his grasp and ran off into the broom sedge out of sight. Sometimes she would even stay in the broom sedge all night, remaining out there until Love went to work the next morning. Pearl had never talked, for that matter, not because she could not, but simply because she did not want to. When she was at home, before Love had married her, she had stayed apart from the other Lesters and rarely opened her mouth from the beginning of one day to the next. Only her mother, Ada, had been able to converse with her, and even then, Pearl had never used more than the barest of negatives and affirmatives in reply. But Ada was herself like that. She had begun to talk voluntarily only during the past 10 years. Before then, Jeter had the same trouble with her that Love was now having with Pearl. Love asked Pearl questions. He kicked her. He poured water over her. He threw rocks and sticks at her. And he did everything else he could think of that he thought might make her talk to him. She cried a lot, especially when she was seriously hurt. But Love did not consider that as conversation. He wanted her to ask him if his back were sore, and when he was going to get his hair cut, and when was it going to rain again. But Pearl would not say anything. He had spoken to Jeter several times before about his troubles with Pearl, but Jeter did not know what was the matter with her. Ever since she was a baby, she had been like that, he said, and Ada had remained untalkative until the last few years. What Jeter had not been able to break down in Ada for 40 years, hunger had. Hunger loosened her tongue, and she had been complaining ever since. Jeter did not attempt to recommend the starving of Pearl because he knew she would go somewhere to beg food, and would get it. Sometimes I think it's just the old devil in her, Love had said several times. To my way of thinking, she ain't got a scratch of religion in her. She's going to hellfire when she dies, sure as day comes. Now, maybe she ain't pleased with her married life, Jeter had suggested. Maybe she ain't satisfied with what you provide her with. I done everything I can think of to make her satisfied and contented. Every week I go to Fuller on payday and buy her a pretty. I get her snuff, but she won't take none. I get her a little piece of calico, but she won't sew it. Looks like she wants something I ain't got and can't get her. I wish I knowed what it was. She's such a pretty little girl. All them long yellow curls hanging down her back sort of gets me all crazy sometimes. I don't know what's going to happen to me. I've got the need of Pearl for a wife as bad as any man ever had. I expect she's too young yet to appreciate things, Jeter had said. She ain't grown up yet like Ellie Mae and Lizzie Bell and Clara and the other gals. Pearl ain't nothing but a little gal yet. She don't even look like a woman so far. Remember, Pearl is 12 years old. If I had known she was going to be like she is, maybe I wouldn't have wanted to marry her so bad. I could have married me a woman that wants to be married to me, but I don't want Pearl to go now, though. I sort of got used to her around, and I'd sure miss seeing them long yellow curls hanging down her back. They make a man feel kind of lonesome some way. She sure is a pretty girl, no matter if she does act like she does all the time. Love had gone back home that time and told Pearl what Jeter said about her, but she sat in the chair and made no sign of answering him. Love did not know what to do about after that. But he had realized from that time on that she was still a little girl. During the 8 months they had been married, she had grown 3 or 4 inches in height, and she weighed about 15 pounds more now than she had at the beginning. She still did not weigh much more than 100 pounds, though she was gaining in weight and height every day. What Love wanted to speak to Jeter about now in particular was the way Pearl had of refusing to sleep with him. She had been married almost a year, and still she slept by herself, as she had done since the first. She slept by herself on a pallet on the floor, refusing even to let Love kiss her or touch her in any way. Love had told her that cows were not any good until they had been freshened, and that the reason he married her was because he wanted to kiss her and feel her long yellow curls and sleep with her. but Pearl had not even indicated that she heard him or knew what he was talking about. Next to wanting to kiss her and talk to her, Love wanted to see her eyes. Yet even this pleasure she denied him. Her pale blue eyes were always looking off into another direction when he came and stood in front of her. Love still stood in the middle of the road, looking at Jeter and the other Lesters in the yard. They were waiting for him to make the first move. Friendly or hostile, it mattered little to them so long as there were turnips in the sack. Jeter was wondering where Love had got the turnips. It did not occur to him that Love had bought them with money. Jeter had long before come to the conclusion that the only possible way a quantity of food could be obtained was by theft. But he had not been able to locate a turnip patch that year anywhere within 5 or 6 miles. There had been planted a 2-acre field the year before at the Peabody place, but the Peabody men had kept people out of the field with shotguns then, and this year they had not turnips. "Why don't you come in the yard off that tobacco road, Love?" Peter said. "Ain't no sense standing out there. Come in and rest yourself." Love made no reply, nor did he move. He was debating within himself the danger of entering the yard against the safety of staying where he was in the road. For the past few weeks, Love had been thinking about taking some plow lines and tying Pearl in the bed at night. Let's read that again. For the past few weeks, Love had been thinking about taking some plow lines and tying Pearl in the bed at night. He had tried everything that he could think of so far except force, and he was still determined to make her act as he thought a wife should. He had reached the point now where he wanted Jeter's advice before going ahead with the plan. He believed Jeter would know whether it was advisable from the practical side, since Jeter had to contend with Ada for almost a lifetime. He knew Ada had once acted as Pearl was doing, but Jeter had not been treated as well. I forgot my readers. But Jeter had not been treated as he was treated, because A had borne him 17 children, while Pearl had not even begun to have the first one. If Jeter said it would be satisfactory to tie Pearl in bed, then he would go ahead and do it. Jeter knew more about such things than he did. Jeter had been married to Ada 40 years. Love hoped that Jeter would offer to go down to the house at the coal chute and help him tie Pearl to the bed. Pearl fought back so fiercely whenever he attempted to catch her that he was afraid he would not be able to accomplish anything without Jeter's help. The Lesters stood around in the yard and on the front porch waiting to see what Love was going to do next. There had been very little in the house. Hello. How's it going? I'm reading Tobacco Road. Ferdman, 27. Fordman? Is it Ferdman or Fordman? Or F. Redman? Or F. Red Manin, 27. I'm only on page 8, chapter 1 of Tobacco Road. It's a great book. The Lesters stood around in the yard and on the front porch waiting to see what Love was going to do next. There had been little in the house again that day to eat. Some salty soup Ada had been made by boiling several fat back rinds in a pan of water. And cornbread was all there was when they had sat down to eat. There had not been enough to go around even then, and the old grandmother had been shoved out of the kitchen when she tried to come inside. Ellie Mae stood behind a chinaberry tree looking around the trunk at Love. She moved her head from one side of the tree to the other, trying to attract Love's attention. "Hey, Fredman 27, can you hear me all right? If you're still there? Oh, you're gone. Never mind. Maybe you're not." Ellie Mae stood behind a chinaberry tree, looking around the trunk at Love. She moved her head from one side of the tree to the other, trying to attract Love's attention. Ellie Mae and Dude were the only Lester children left at home. All the others had gone away and married, some of them just leaving in a casual way as though they were only walking down to the coal chute to see the freight trains. When they failed to return within 2 or 3 days, it was known that they had left home. Dude was throwing a lopsided baseball at the side of the house and catching it on the rebound. The ball hit the house like a clap of thunder, rattling the loose weather boarding until the vibration swayed the house from side to side. He threw the ball continually, the ball bounding with unfailing regularity back across the sandy yard to where he stood. The 3-room house sat precariously on the stacks of thin lime rock chips that had been placed under the 4 corners. The stones had been laid, one on top of the other, the beams spiked, and the house nailed together. The ease and simplicity with which it had been built was now evident. The center of the building sagged between the sills. The front porch had sagged loose from the house and was now a foot or more lower than it originally was. And the roof sagged in the center where the supporting rafters had been carelessly put together. Most of the shingles had rotted, and after every windstorm, pieces of them were scattered in all directions about the yard. When the roof leaked, the Lesters moved from one corner of the room to another, their movements finally outlasting the duration of the rain. The house had never been painted. Jeter was trying to patch a rotten inner tube. He had said that if he could ever get all the tires on the old automobile standing up at the same time again, he would haul a load of wood to Augusta and sell it. Woodcutters were being paid $2 a load for seasoned pine delivered in the city, but the blackjack that Jeter tried to make people buy for fuel never brought him more than 50 or 75 cents. Usually when he did succeed in getting a load of it to Augusta, he was not able to give it away. Nobody, it seemed, was foolish enough to buy wood that was tougher than iron water pipes. People argued with Jeter about his mule-like determination to sell blackjack for fuel, and they tried to convince him that as firewood, it was practically worthless. But Jeter said he wanted to clear the land of the scrub oak because he was getting ready to farm it again. Love had by that time moved a few steps nearer the yard and had sat down in the tobacco road with his feet in the drain ditch. He kept one hand gripped tightly around the mouth of the sack, where it had been tied together with a piece of twine. Ellie Mae continued to peer from behind the chinaberry tree, trying to attract Love's attention. Each time he glanced in that direction, she jerked her head back so he could not see her. Excuse me. "What you got in that croaker sack, Love?" Jeter shouted across the yard. "I've been seeing you come a far piece off with that there croaker sack on your back. I sure would like to know what you got inside of it. I heard it said that some people has got turnips this year." Love tightened his grip on the mouth of the sack, looking from Jeter to the next Lester in turn. He saw Ellie Mae peering at him from behind the chinaberry tree. "Did you have a hard time getting what you got there in the sack, Love?" Jeter said. "You look like you was all out of breath." "I want to say something to you, Jeter," he said. "It's about Pearl." What's that gal done now, Love? Is she treating you mean some more?" "It's just like she's always done, only I'm getting pretty darn tired of it by this time. I don't like the way she acts. I never did take to the way she does, but it's getting worse and worse all the time. All the niggers make fun of me because of the way she treats me." "Pearl is just like that, Ma," Jeter said. "Her ma used to do the queerest thing in her time. Every time I want to have her around me, she runs off and won't come back when I call her. Now, what I say is, what in the hell is the sense of marrying me a wife if I don't get none of the benefits? God didn't intend for it to be that way. You don't want a man to be treated like that. It's all right for a woman to sort of tease a man into doing what she wants done, but Pearl don't seem to be aiming after that. She ain't teasing me, to her way of thinking, but it sure does act but it sure does act that way on me. Right now I feel like I want a woman what ain't so. What you got in that croaker sack, love? Jeter said. I've been seeing you for the past hour or longer, ever since you came over the top of that far hill yonder. Turnips, by God, Love said, looking at the Lester women. Where'd you get turnips, love? Wouldn't you like to know? I was thinking maybe we might fix up some sort of a trade, love, me and you. Now, I could go down to your house and sort of tell Pearl she's got to sleep in bed with you. That's what you was aiming to speak to me about, wasn't it? You want her to sleep in the bed, don't you? She ain't never slept in the bed. It's that darn pallet on the floor, and she sleeps on that every night. Reckon you can make her stop doing that, Jeter? I'd be pleased something powerful to make her do what she ain't doing. That is, if me and you could make a trade with them turnips, love. That's what I came by here for, to speak to you about Pearl. But I ain't going to let you have none of these turnips, though. I had to pay 50 cents for this many in a sack, and I had to walk all the way to the other side of Fuller and back to fetch them. You're Pearl's daddy, and you ought to make her behave for nothing. She don't pay no attention to nothing I tell her to do. By God and by Jesus, love, all the damn blasted turnips I raised this year is wormy, and I ain't had a good turnip since a year ago this spring. All my turnips has got them damn blasted green-gutted worms in them, love. What God made turnip worms for, I can't make out. It appears to me like he just naturally has got it in as good and heavy for a poor man. I worked all the fall last year digging up a patch of ground to grow turnips in, and then when they're getting about big enough to pull up and eat, along comes these damn blasted green-gutted turnip worms and bore clear to the middle of them. God has got it in good and heavy for the poor. But I ain't complaining, love. I say, the good Lord knows best about turnips. Some of these days he'll bust loose with a heap of bounty, and all us poor folk will have all we want to eat, and plenty to clothe us with. It can't always be getting worse and worse every year like it has got since the big war. God, he'll put a stop to it some of these days and make the rich give back all they've took from us poor folk. God is going to treat us right. He ain't going to let it keep on like this now, but we got to stop cussing when we ain't got nothing to eat. He'll send a man to hell and the devil for persisting in doing that. Love dragged the sack of turnips across the drain ditch and sat down again. Jeter laid aside the rotten inner tube and waited. That's the end of chapter 1 of Tobacco Road. So, I'll read chapter 2 another time. We'll get through this book. All right, y'all. Have a great evening. Stop, damn it.